In this tutorial, we're going to cover starting an architectural project in Revit. Okay, so there's some important things that we need to establish first. So the first thing we need to do is import the files that we need to work with. Okay, so you need to go and locate those files and bring them in. So the first, I'm going to start on level 0, and I'm going to start bringing in some drawings. I'm not worried about naming things yet. I'll do that once I start creating levels, but for now, I just want to start getting the work in. And I want to work around the center. So I'm going to switch on my project base point, so visibility graphics, and I'm going to go to site, open up site, project base point. That's what I'm interested in. Or internal origin. So you just want to work around those 2 points. Okay, so there's my internal origin and there's my project base point. Okay, so we just want to try and work around this as best we can. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to go and insert, I'm going to link. So in this case, you've got 2 options. You can either import CAD or link CAD. That's up to you. I prefer to link the CAD files most of the times. But I think for this exercise, I'm just going to say import CAD. Just be very careful not to explode the drawing so that you can get rid of the information later. You don't want to put unnecessary information in your project. Okay. So I'm going to find the file quickly. Yeah. Okay, so this is a project that the interior teams will be doing, but it's a great example to start. So I've got some basic elevations. I don't have them all, so some of the stuff I'll have to find and work up using Google Photographs, but there's enough information here. So the first thing I'm going to bring in are the floor plans. Now, because I don't know the scale of the drawing, I'm going to force it to be, I'll preserve the colors for now. I'm going to force it to be a certain scale. So I want everything visible. And I just want to I'm switching on current view only so that it brings it in as a 2D object and not as a 3D object. Because if you bring it in as a 3D object, it's also going to, your 3D views are going to be quite polluted. Okay. Then when it's auto detect, I'm going to force it to be millimeters because I want to work with millimeters. And auto origin to origin, that's fine for now. We can always move it. Don't worry about this too much. In this case, I might just say manual center because I want to force it to be around the center. Because sometimes if you say auto, it's going to bring something very far away. So here it's giving me an option to drop it in where I'd like. Okay, so I think this is the ground floor plan. And okay, this is great. This has come in. I'm just going to take some dimensions very quickly just to make sure that my scale is correct. This is important. 230, that's 230 wall. Okay, and these are stud walls. Okay, so these are stud walls. That's a masonry wall. That's great. Okay, we can sort out the colors now as well. And I want to orientate north to be up as well. So I'm going to grab the whole thing and I'm going to rotate this by -90. Okay. My apologies, rotate 180. Okay, move this around. So I want to find a good point to work around. So I think a good origin for this project, I think I'll make, and I can see there's some structural columns. So I'm going to make this structural column here my origin. So I'm going to move this and put this over there. Okay, great. All right, so my views are kind of getting set up. The next thing I'm going to try and do, I'm going to try and just change the color of the DWG file so it looks a bit better as well. So that's my next step I'm going to do. So I've imported my drawing, it's to the correct scale. And so maybe I need to go and look at my elevation. So this will be, if you just hover over the elevation marker in this view, it'll tell you what elevation it is. So if you just hover on the end, view north. So I'll need to bring in the elevations as well. So let's just go to any elevation for now. Doesn't really matter. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to say import CAD, current view only, and I'm going to grab the elevations. It doesn't matter which elevation we drop it in. Current view only, force it to millimeters, and drop this in as well. Okay, we'll start lining up information now. Okay, so it looks like we've got an east and a south elevation. So I'm going to cut this out of here and go to my east, and I'm going to paste it over here. Architecture, modify, I should paste it, Control V. Okay. It looks like that didn't work, so let's just say insert again. insert import CAD, elevations, everything else is perfect, open. I'm going to drop this in here. So this is east elevation. Okay, we'll start checking the scales now. It's quite easy to check the scales. So this will be east elevation. I'm going to grab this guy again, copy, and I'm going to put this in south elevation. So those are the only elevations I have for the time being. But there's enough information for me to kind of work out the model with the floor plans. Okay. Okay, and then we're just going to say paste. It doesn't really matter where I paste it. Paste it. Copy, east elevation, south, paste. Doesn't matter where I put it. We're going to sort this out now. Okay. All right. So I've kind of got the drawings in. I might need to just work on the way they look. And I'm going to do this for the whole project. So I'm going to go to View. I'm going to go and find Visibility Graphics. So I want to change this for the whole project. Okay. So I'm going to click on Visibility Graphics. Sorry, my mistake. I'm going to go to Manage. I'm going to go to Object Styles. Go to Importer Categories. So for both of these, select all the layers for the whole project, and I'm going to change these to, one's fine. I'm going to change this all to like a color that is not frequently used. And you'll see that these will have changed. Not everything ever changes because they weren't done below, but that's fine. I can change it in the view itself as well. And I just want to change everything for the ground floor. At least this gets rid of most of the colors that you don't want. So again, select all of these, change this to that color as well, apply. Okay. All right, so let's go back to my level 0. Okay, great. So you can see it hasn't quite worked. They haven't worked that well in AutoCAD in the sense of trying to keep everything in layers, but that's quite easy to sort out. You can go to VG, go to Import Categories, and you can find the floor plans, and just you can override all of them. So you can select the whole lot, scroll down to the bottom. You can also control layers here, but here I'm just going to say override color to match. That'll force it as well. Okay, just remember you'll have to do this for every view. Okay, so let's have a look at the floor plans. Okay, so I've imported the drawing, I've got my kind of view set up, and I've got some information to start working from. So the next thing I want to do is I'm going to make the appropriate levels so that I can accommodate all these floor plans. So we've got a ground floor, first floor, second floor, third floor, and we've got a fourth floor and then a roof. Then I see we've got another little room that's happening here. So there we'll maybe have like a little mezzanine level. We can introduce another level. Okay, all right, so that's fine. So we've got 4 floors and a roof, and then probably another little level somewhere over the lift, for example, because a lift typically has a pit, which goes, it's like a little basement that it goes into, because the lift its mechanism needs to run up and down, and then it has an overrun. So once it's reached this top level, it'll have another story in which the lift will need to overrun by, and there's a motor above the lift to basically lift the lift up and down. Okay. All right, so the next thing I need to do is I need to go and create the correct amount of levels, and I'll need to start copying this plan and so I need to create a whole bunch of working plans so that I can start working off this information. Okay. All right, so the next thing I want to do is go back to my elevations. So south elevation will work fine. I just want to establish the levels. Okay. And if I look here very quickly, these levels should start lining up, and you can see in this they have kind of highlighted the levels that you want. So they've got 4th, 3rd, and I'll just go to East View, and I'm just going to double check something with these elevations. Here my model's levels, so I might need to, so I'm going to move this drawing. I'm going to move this level to match this level for the time being. So here we've got level 0. You can grab this level, you can extend the extents. Okay, that's fine for now. I will move this to kind of work so I can see the stairs here. So I've got some information to start working with to kind of line this up correctly. So let's go to level 0. I'm going to create a reference plane because I can see. So this will be north. This will be my east elevation over here. Over here, that's correct. East elevation. Okay. So what I can do is I can set up a reference plane, architecture reference plane. So reference plane will give me a plane. If I go to east elevation, if you can double click, it'll take you back there. You'll see now in this file there should be a reference plane that I can work with. So if I just select everything, I just want to see where my reference plane is. Okay, here's my reference plane over here. So here's my reference plane. I'm going to stand this quite high. So I need to move this. So I've aligned the correct ground floor level with the respective level. All I need to do is move the elevation now. Move this elevation to line up with that. So that's the edge of my building in essence, which seems to line up well. Okay, so I've aligned this elevation with the appropriate elevation. So I've got some information now to start modeling from as well. Okay, and I've got some detail that I can represent later. Okay, but that's more of a detail thing. I think for now we're just going to generate the shell, get all the floors in the correct level. Okay, so it appears that the first level is quite a high level, and it looks like it'll be it's a level and a half. So let's have a quick look at the dimensions here, 459. So that will work. So let's move level to that one, which kind of matches. Then I'm just going to double check. Okay, so once I've got my level, so what you can do now is you can go back to the architectural tab and you can start creating other levels. Okay, so I'm going to create a series of other levels, and you'll see when I use the level tool to create the correct view. So I'm just putting these in the rough place now. I'll go and lock and align them a bit later. So here I'm just creating some additional levels to kind of tie in with what's there. You can use this level tool as well, so it'll also create levels that way. You can see it create the level. Now I've got a feeling there's going to be another level here and a roof level, so I'm going to grab this one. There's another tool you can use. You can click the level, push control and drag up, and also copy them. Just note it doesn't make the views, it won't make the views. You need to go and make those views. If you go view floor plans, you'll need to go, and here you can see level 6 hasn't been made yet for the respective view, so you just need to go and make those levels. But for now, we can talk about that later. Okay, so in essence, we're going to have a series of views like this, because I think the stair will stop over here. So it'll be a level and a half, but that we can kind of gauge. For now, we don't have the exact dimensions, so that we'll have to kind of work out. But that's fine. Okay, so in essence, I've set up my levels. All I need to do now is just make sure that these levels correspond. So that one needs to align with that one. That level, that AutoCAD file needs to align with that. And we're going to go and check the dimensions now and make sure that everything is rounded. That level's correct. Let's go tie that up with that. Level 6. We don't quite know where that is, and we don't quite know where that is. But we can make an educated guess. Okay. So what I want to do very quickly is, now that I've got my levels in place, I just want to start checking them and making sure that they're all correct. So I'm going to go to BG, and I'm going to switch off the imported object for the time being. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to start aligning. They all need to, levels got two functions. They've got a 3D extents and a 2D extents. So if I go to 3D view, you'll notice they've got an extents in which they work. So you need to start lining these up so that they all match. So there's some other tools that we can use a bit later on to get this to work. So when you click the 2D, 3D, you want to grab the 3D function so that the levels start working together as one. So that's very important. I'll explain in some circumstances where you don't want that to occur. But it just means if you change one level, so if I grabbed the level over here and I dragged it and I locked it and lined it to that one, you'll see that they'll all start working together. So if I grab this level and move it this way, you'll see that they're working together. You just want to create a relationship with these levels. Now they're all working together. So the ends will be working together. That's great. So we're going to go to, next thing I'm going to do is use some dimensions. So I just want to double check that these dimensions are rounded. This is very important. You don't want odd non-rounded dimensions. This level I might change to 3055. See here we've got a 3055, and so there's some slight inaccuracies which I just want to get rid of. So you don't want to point through there, for example. These need to be perfectly rounded. So that one, for example, I might change this level to be, I've got a feeling that these will work the same. So that level is slightly off. So let's just check this level. That's perfect. You don't want any 0.2s or 0.3s. Okay, that's very important. Just a 0.2. I might introduce, in this dimension type, I might introduce a rounding factor because I just want to make sure. So this is how I do it very quickly. I'll change the decimals of how it's measured. So units, so here I'm going to change this and I'm going to add 2 decimal places, press apply. I'm just doing this temporarily just to make sure that I don't have any points. You want to try and work as accurately as possible. See here I've got a slight issue with this, so that just needs to be but we'll come back and check this level. Okay, so these levels are not set in stone. I'm just trying to get them rounded. So I've got enough information to work with, and you'll notice that I've got most of my levels here. The levels that are not showing, it's very easy. You can go to floor plans, so go to view tab, floor plans, and I just want to create, so you can press control down, select both, and press OK, and you'll see it'll make the respective levels. I'm not worried about ceiling plans at the moment. I'm worried about my floor plans. Okay. All right, great. So the next thing we need to do is start setting up these views with the correct floor plan. So I need to copy this. I'm going to copy this. I'm going to paste this. So align to selected levels. I'm going to paste it on all of these for now. So if I go to level 1, you'll notice that they've all now in the correct location. So we need to find a point where they're all, so like a column, for example, or an edge of a building, where I know that everything's going to line up. Okay, so I've got a reference plane here. So that's the edge of the building. So what I could do is use another reference plane, and I can use this reference plane along here as well. Just remember, reference planes also have 3D extents, so you'll need to extend them to work all the way up. And that's quite easy. You can use elevations to do it. All right, so here's a reference plane here, and there'll be a reference plane on the other side. Just make sure that it cuts through all the levels. We can start sorting out these in a minute. Okay, so let's go here. I want my 3D extents. I'm going to pull this past. So this is south elevation, so I need to move this building so that it lines up with my. Okay, so this. I see this hasn't locked in the line to that yet, so but it should start working in a minute. Let's put it to there. Right, so south elevation. So this guy I need to move this to there. And south elevation, let's just go to my floor plans. So that's north, so south elevation, we're going to be seeing these steps here, we're going to be seeing the edge of the building. Okay, so south elevation. Okay, so here are the steps over here. So here's the edge of my building. So I need to pull this guy to there. All right. If you don't want to see the rest of the stuff, you can switch on a crop region. So you can hide the stuff that you don't want to see as well. That's probably what I'm going to start doing. Look, these files you'll get rid of a bit later on. So east, for example, I can go to BG, imported categories, make sure this is back on. Okay, I'm going to use, and again, you can see my reference planes cut through all those levels, which is important. And we've aligned our building. So here, once again, I can use my crop again, switch everything on. And I don't want to be seeing the other edge of this building, so I'm going to crop this back as best as I can. So there's another building in the background that I'm not interested in. Okay, this I can grab and pull this side. Okay, and then again, so this is purely for the sake of starting to model this information. And we've got some information here which we might have to use a bit later. But anyway, so that's kind of starting to work well. Now with the floor plans, we've got a nice edge that we can keep moving these floors to line up with. So if I go to level 1, I'm going to grab this level, I'm going to move this, select that endpoint, I'm going to pull it to there. Okay, once again, you can start using crop views for this to start modeling, which I'll do a bit later. So my second floor, I'm going to move this one, move this, it's the edge of the building from there. Look, there might be some fine tuning later on, but in essence, all that you want to start doing is establishing which walls will go right up to the roof, which walls will only finish between levels. So that's what I'm doing now. So I'm setting up all these levels so that we've got good information to work with. I see there's a balcony around the back here. All right, so pull this back to there. And we can double check this. Just make sure this third floor starts corresponding. So the next one will be fourth floor. So I'm going to go and grab floor 4. Okay, move this. Okay, pull this down. Stop this over here. Okay, and then the last one would be my roof level. Okay, will be this one. Move. Okay, this one is a bit more tricky because we don't have, we're missing some information, so I might have to use a lift shaft or something to kind of, so a lift shaft is a great one as well because a lift shaft should always tie up. Okay, so I'm going to use another reference plane. These reference planes we can get rid of later. I'm just creating an intersection. Okay, let's delete that. I'm going to do that again. So architecture, reference plane. So here I'm just going to go and create a reference plane, horizontal, vertical. Okay, so at this intersection here will work fine. So if I go to level 7, level 6 I think it was, level 5, level 5, I'm going to grab my, so in essence this should line up. Okay. This will, we can start fine-tuning and stuff once we start working on this floor a lot more. But in essence, I'm quite happy now that this is kind of lined up. So each level now we can start switching on our crops because we just want to deal with the floor that we're dealing with. Okay. And what is quite nice about this option, you can go to edit crop, you can copy the boundary. So copy this boundary. Use the copy tool. Okay, so now I can go to each level and I can just say switch on crop, finish, and then I can edit crop, delete everything, and I can paste align to current view, finished. Okay, second floor, do the same, switch on the crop, edit crop, delete the boundary, paste align to current view. So that way you've got the same crop on every view. Okay, so now we're just busy setting up all our views, our levels. Okay, that's great. So edit boundary, get rid of that, paste, align to current view. Okay, great. Level 4, switch on crop, edit crop, get rid of it, paste, align to current view, finished, and then level 5. I'm not worried about the other levels for the time being. We'll tackle that a bit later. Sorry, switch on, edit crop, delete that, okay, modify, paste, align to current view, done. Okay, great. Okay, so in a nutshell, we've kind of got our levels set up. We've got some information that we can start working with. What I might do is switch off. I need to establish the columns in that, for example. So now that I've got everything set up, the next thing I need to start working on is a structural grid. So what's very important, if you're doing multi-story buildings, you're going to have a lot of structural elements. You can see these are structural columns, for example. These are structural columns. So we'll need to start working those up. So the best way we could maybe do it, if the AutoCAD file has been done well, we can go and start, let's collect the AutoCAD file, and I can use the query tool. And if this is done, so that's not a good layer, so they've used terrible layers. Let's just say here, no, so they've layer C, so maybe that will work. Let's just see. Let's go to BG, import a category. I'm going to switch off all the other layers and just leave layer C on, C, and hopefully C just the concrete. That's all I'm after for the time being. Okay, so layer C. Let's see what everything looks like. Apply. So it looks like we've got a structural grid going, and I'm quite happy with this because I'm going to use this to generate my initial grid from. So always use your structure to generate a grid. Okay, so now that I've kind of got this in play, the next thing I'm going to start doing is start creating a grid system. So in the architectural tab, so grids will help you model your project a bit better. And here you can find I've got two different types of grids, but this will work for now. And you want to start from the center of the grid. Okay, so we're going to have a grid in this direction, so start from here. Center line, we can fine tune this later. So we've got grid 1. And once you establish a grid, if you start copying this grid, for example, I'm going to use this to copy. So I'm going to use copy tool, and I'm going to start copying the grid to the center lines of these columns. Copy again and just make sure multiple selected, and you'll notice that the grid will start numbering automatically. So how I tend to do it is I have numbers in one direction and letters in the other. If you have multiple grid systems, that will change. However, you start using prefixes of letters before. Okay, so I've got my number grid in this direction, and I'm going to put my letter grids in this direction. And that will also go through the center line. So I'm going to go to grid and grab the center line here, pull this out, and I'm going to change this to A. Capital letters. So here you're going to have A, B, C, D in this direction, and you're going to have your numbers in this direction. These work exactly the same way as the levels. So once you establish a relationship, for example, these grids here, because they'll stop short, you can click on this 3D and you can pull it back. Likewise with this. All right, let me just do that again. I want to use the 3D extents. If you click the 3D extents, you unlock it so it doesn't keep the relationship. You pull it back once. You do the same with this one. And now these will form a relationship here, like that. Okay, so unpin it and then pull it back to this line here. Okay, now these three work together. So if I drag this, this will work. Okay, this is important. Okay, so now that I've established my A, once again, this is pretty straightforward. I can start copying this. We will fine tune these grids a bit later on. Okay, snap middle, SM. So always try and use the center line of your columns. Okay, generally that's how they set them out. This one might be a little tricky, but we'll fine tune it a bit later. Here you can see the relationship's not that great. Snap middle. Yeah, that kind of works, and then snap middle. Okay. I think these are all the grids I need. Sometimes these kind of get set up with dimensions from the grid line if they're off the grid, but now we'll dimension the grid. Okay, so now this is the next important step. I need to dimension the grid. Okay, because we also need to start rounding this off slightly. Engineers also work in round numbers. They don't like to work in and the good thing is I've got those, and you can see they are round numbers. That's good. Likewise here, you don't want any comma 7, comma 2s, that kind of thing. Okay, I've picked up a grid system here which is not going to work. So the C I need to get rid of. So I'll do that. So I'm going to get rid of this. Yeah, this will work. So I'm going to grab that one, grab that one, I'm going to grab that one. So I'm going to select these grids here. I'm going to move this from center line to where that intersects. So this grid, I'll just need to move this to the middle here. It's middle. Okay, and then this one I'll just need to move snap middle to there. Okay, and then this one I'll just need to move to the middle. Okay. Okay, think of it, the grid drives the skeleton of your building, okay, and your levels will control the levels of the lab. So when you start creating your structural columns, these grids become vital. They're very important to drive those kind of objects, okay. Once again, I can unpin this guy over here, pull this back to there, grab this guy over here, we can unpin it and pull it back to here. So what's also nice now is we go to all our elevations. You'll notice that our grid system is pre-set up and our levels. So the structure of the building now is kind of been established. And just once again, make sure these are round dimensions. Okay. So you want a basic grid in play. And again, I'm just going to make sure that these are all rounded dimensions. I don't want any comma 5s, comma 2s, comma 3s. They must all be rounded. Okay, there should be no comma 1s or 2s, etc. It's just to resolve inaccuracies that will creep into your project. The next thing I try and do is I move these levels to the correct locations. Don't worry, it's doing this on every single view. I just want to make sure that these work correctly. If you correct, so elevation marker is made out of two objects. So this is where you can, so the one object is the elevation itself, and if you click on the direction it's viewing here, you can start editing what you see in the elevation. So here I'm just setting up the extents of the views so that I know what I'm looking at. Likewise with this view, I want to start looking from here. I only want to see that. So we might have to go and adjust some of these a bit later. So I want to look from there. So you just grab the dot so it goes blue. Grab this dot. I'll go back probably to that line there. That's all I want to see in that view. So as you start modeling, all this information will start. Okay, this one hasn't been set up in extents, but that's fine. I want to see that deep and my north elevation. Likewise, I want to put it over here somewhere. Just remember the elevation needs to cross the grids, otherwise you won't see the grids as well. Okay, so if I went to north elevation, you probably won't. Okay, you're still seeing the grids, but sometimes you won't see the grids. Just remember they're not in the cut range or the view range of that elevation. Okay, so that's great. So I've started setting this up. I'm going to save this project as well. Keep saving. So I'm going to save this on my desktop just for the time. Well, I'll leave it in my sample. I'm going to call this interior model. Okay, all right. So just keep saving this project. That's critical as you're going along. So in a nutshell, that's how you would go about setting up this project. We're going to start in our next video. We're going to cover how we start setting up those correct columns, etc. So we just switch everything back on so I know that it's all there. Okay, great. So I've established where I'm working from. I've set up my elevations, my grids. So in every view now, I'm going to have all my grids, and you can see my grids are set up and they're working. So you can see this information is kind of accurate. Okay. All right, so in the next video, we're going to start establishing our walls. I always tend to start with my walls first. I draw all my walls, copy them up, extend them to the correct levels, and then from there, I'll start creating more information. Okay, so this is step one.